All right, it's time for number 2 in the series of what everything does in Premiere. Today we're going to talk about the source monitor. Pretty gnarly little piece of thing right there. It's like pretty important. It's where you do a lot of stuff. So basically, we'd already gone over this project panel. So what you do is you say, all right, I want this piece of footage. So what you can do is you can do a couple ways to get the footage from the project panel into the source panel. You can right click and go open in source monitor. And then bam, look at that. Oops, awkward, speakers are on. And then it's there. You can also double click and it'll open up in there. It's just a little faster. It's the same amount of clicks. It's just, easier. But if you want to right click and go, I won't stop you. I'm also pretty sure you can just drag it in there. And that's pretty cool too. That's only one click. So however way you want to do it, that's how you get your footage into your source monitor. And now, what is this? What is this bad boy? This basically is where you say, you have this pizza of footage, and you can say, I can't eat that whole pizza. That's no good. These 3 slices have worms on them. So what you can do is you can say, all right, you go through and you say, I don't want anything before this point here, because this point is the best point. That's where I want to start. So you hit I, and now that is where the clip will start whenever you take it out of the source monitor. You can still go before it. It's still there. It's non-destructive. You say, all right, this is where I want to go start from. And now say you're over here and you're looking for your next thing, and you go, all right, how do I get back to that point? Well, you can do go to endpoint, which is a button. And everybody knows buttons on screen are lame. So we're going to use the keyboard shortcut Shift I. And then you can actually say, all right, I wanted it just a couple frames before that. I'm using a shuttle probe. You can also use the arrow keys to go frame by frame. And you said that is where I want to start. You hit I again, and the endpoint moves over there. So now we're going through. You can hit, this is where JKL starts to come into play. J plays backwards, K stops, L plays forward. Shift L plays forward at half speed. Shift J plays backwards at half speed. L twice plays double, 3 times, keeps on going. So great. So now we know how to move around. So now we go through and we said, all right, K. That's where I want to stop. You hit O, and that sets your out point, and that's where you want your clip to stop. So now, the only thing we're going to take anywhere is this little green section here, and all this other stuff we just don't need. We can come back and get it if we want it, but for this clip, we don't need it. So, now we have that. That's pretty cool. Go to out point is, you have to Shift O or this little button. That's cool. Alright, so that's kind of quick and dirty how you go through making a clip where you want it. Now what else can you do in the source monitor? Source monitor is a pretty cool thing. So you can go and click on this little dealio. You can undock the panel and have it float around if you have a bunch of monitors, like this guy. You can move it around inside. You can... undocking the whole frame, yeah, it's everything. That's pretty neat. Oh, I have to put all those back. Dumb. Alright. Who uses metadata? My goodness. Sorry if you use the metadata panel. Alright. Close panel, close frame. You can guess what those do. Maximize frame. It should be tilde, but what does shift tilde do? If somebody knows what the difference between tilde and shift tilde is, tell me, because I am clueless. Now this is a pretty neat thing. ganging the source and the program monitor. So if you have this clip in your timeline, which we'll get to a little later, and you're playing through and you play over this clip, and then you stop and you're over this clip, and then you open up the clip from the timeline into the source monitor, you can select this, and then they'll be at the same point. And see how the timeline's moving down here, or down in the timeline and over in the program monitor with where it is in the clip. That's pretty neat. Okay, now you can go to your different view options. This is more useful in the reference monitor, but if you want to open up in the source monitor because you're a crazy son of a gun, I mean, go ahead. You can show the audio waveform. I mean, that's pretty useful for this if you're cutting to audio. You can zoom in, I think. Yeah, you can zoom in vertically like that. And then you can zoom in horizontally like this. And you can see all the different waveform goodness. So if you wanted to cut to say that transient, just hit I right there and you're good to go. Alright, next view is the alpha channel. This video doesn't have an alpha channel. Do I have anything handy that has an alpha channel? These random pictures of these kids. Open that up. And see, there's this white part is what is opaque, so that means that will show up in the video. And this black part is transparent, so you could put something else behind it. So like, say you wanted to do something really cheeky and put these random kids over Madison Shea. See, there they are, transparent background, kids are there. Great, classy stuff right there. Okay, we're back to that. Okay, after alpha is all scopes. That just shows all these next ones that we'll go through. So that's what that looks like. Cool. You can change the intensity if you want to see it better, or more differenter. This just determines kind of what scale you're using. If you want to see the chrominance in with the luminance, so the luminance is the white and black values, and then the chrominance are the RGB values inside of those. Just more what scale you want to be using. I'm really not the one you should be talking to about scopes and stuff, but they're pretty neat. They make you look really cool. Always a good thing to have up. I know how to use them. I'm just not a broadcast guy, so I don't have to worry about the difference between 7.5 IRE and whatever else. So there's that. In the scopes is a vector scope. This is what's called the skin line, or something like that. Basically, here's your image, and then the more along this line is more skin color. You've got your different colors on here. The neat things, these things are used for calibrating monitors. I know at least that much. So you can go make some bars in tone, and then open that up, and you see, it's probably with normal bars in tone. Okay. So open up bars in tone and see how they're all right at these specific points. You would calibrate your monitor to get them where you want them. So the next thing, there's intensity and stuff again. Where you want. I think it's your clipping point, something like that. We'll get to these controls a little later. Waveform, just the luminance values up here. So this corresponds, X is corresponded to the X in your picture, and Y is corresponding to the luminance value of that column of pixels. So you can see right here is the microphone, because it's, one sec, let me, just so we can see a little better. Alright, now I can see a little better. So this is the piece of paper. Sorry, I had the wrong thing open. And then you can see over here it gets a little funnier. There's Madison over here. It's darker, but we got these funny little bokeh balls. And so those are getting a little hotter up in there. You know, pretty solid black happening. And then you turn the chrominance on and you can see, oh, look, here's all the values kind of in that range. RGB. I'm sure it's really handy dandy. I mean, it's used to set where blacks and whites should be. So 0 is the minimum value before clipping. 100 or 75 is basically the maximum brightness. So you can... Well, we'll deal with these more when we get to the reference monitor. So this one, YCBCR, is just a color space that you look at. Here's the Wikipedia thing. It's a color space used as part of the color image pipeline in video and digital photography systems. Y is luminous component. CB and CR are the blue difference and red difference chroma components. Y prime is distinguished for yada 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 yada. A bunch of mumbo jumbo. It's just it's kind of the same deal as before, how you read it, except for each one's kind of its own separate little trying to gesture at my screen, but you can't see that. From here to here is the entire X, and here to here is also the entire X. It just splits them up. You can see the ranges of different things here. It's pretty neat. Then RGBs, everybody's familiar with red, green, and blue. Same deal of reading it as before. Here's just a combination of some of the things. Another combination. And then here's with your different display things, how you want the different fields to be displayed. That's not really something you can show too well. If you need to use this, you probably know what it does. Different playback resolutions. You can set full playback resolution, so you play back and it no loss of quality. And then you can, and that's like if you have a pretty good computer, you're working with low quality footage. And then you can set playback resolution to a half or a quarter even, and then that just lets you play back a little easier. And this actually looks a lot better than it did in CS 5.5. Like, I have no complaints with that at all until you get up to a bigger resolution, and then you can start to see the difference. I should use the hotkeys. Control 0 for full resolution, I'm pretty sure. Yeah. Oh man, if I just wasn't out of focus so much. Theo, get your head in the game. It didn't switch. Yeah. There we go. So you can see all sharp and good. And then you can do the same thing with the pause. So if you want to play back at a quarter resolution but be paused at full resolution, you can do that. So you play back at a quarter and you see it's all fuzzy and nasty, and then you stop and it's, oh, it's full resolution and sharp goodness. But well, no, you just play back at full. If you just have like a super slow computer, you need to be paused at a quarter also. I mean, I won't stop you. Do what you need to do. You can also set it to loop, so whenever it gets to the end, or I guess it loops the keyframes. That's neat. Yeah, you can loop the little section that you're looking at. That's really handy dandy. Especially when we get into later stuff. You can do JKL trimming with looping, I'm pretty sure. That's pretty cool. You can choose to show or hide transport controls. So these little dealy dabs down here that we've already touched on a little bit, but we'll get to. Oh, and the reason why I didn't tell you that there are keys down here for set in point and set out point is because seriously, I and O are pretty easy to remember. I think that you can get at least that much down. You can show audio time units, which is cool. if you're like syncing up. So, you know, audio sympty time, which is handy if you're talking to like, you know, an audio guy like me. I'm an audio guy. I'm also a video guy. You can choose to show markers, so let's put some markers in. The hotkey for setting an unnumbered marker is asterisk. At least it was. I guess it's M here. My bad. I didn't know I was using Final Cut. Okay, so it's M now. Or this little dilly-dally. You can see there are these markers. So like if there was, like I remember distinctly one of the first things we did for Final Cut training was we had the Shamu jumping out of the water, and we have to put a marker at the point of highest action. So you'd hit play through and be like, oh, hit M, she's doing something. So you can choose to show those markers, or if you don't want to see them because you don't like markers, you can just boop, take those away. Or if you don't have any markers, I mean, no reason to show them if you don't use markers. Show dropped frame indicator. Just in case, you know, once again, you have a slow computer and you want to see if you have dropped frames. I don't really know a lot about dropping frames. So, if you deal with drop frames, good for you. Time ruler numbers, you can see where you are. This is super handy dandy. I don't know why I didn't have that turned on already. But you can see where you are. And you can also see over here the time indicator. But we're still up here in the lesson. So the next thing, safe margins. This is a broadcast thing I do know about. Good for me. So this is called the title action safe border. And basically means that titles, in order to be really safe and be able to see on broadcast screens, should go past this boundary here. And then your action shouldn't go past this. And that just makes sure that, you know, if your grandma's watching this on her 8-inch CRT TV that's a letterbox, then or whatever 4x3 is. I always get them confused. But basically, whenever this gets converted down, this won't be, your titles won't be cut out, and she can still read stuff and say, oh, my little baby's doing such cool stuff, and send all of her old friends emails and get you lots and lots of hits on your website. So, okay, we're done with there, and now we can go into the video part. Cool. So you can right-clicking and a lot of the same things that we had access to in the project panel. So you can properties and see everything you need to see. You can rename it in here, which is neat, I guess. You can actually right click and choose how you want to put it in the timeline. So you can do an insert edit or an overlay edit, and we'll get to those whenever we talk about editing in the timeline. You can change the speed and duration, just like we talked about in the project panel video. Making subclips is cool. So basically you have this, and it's this big thing, and say it's an interview, and you have this one bite right here that you really like, and you say, all right, I'm an assistant editor, and I want to save this, and then my boss will be super happy with me. So you can do make subclip, and then you can say interview bite 01. You can save it, and that makes a subclip, and then that is just your whole thing. So you can just have all these. You can then go over into your project panel like we talked about and put a comment in. Do I not have that in here? Yeah, put a description. Oh, dick, where did I put that? Okay. So you see me making use of the search thing. So you can go in the description and be like, George Bush talks about terror. And then your chief editor or whatever will come down and say, all right, I got this bite, and then George Bush talks about terror. Great, I want to use that. So open it up and say, all right, this is where I wanted to start, this is where I wanted to end, or if you just grate, if you you've just marked it perfectly, you can just drag it right on in and use it, and it's great. Oh, another, actually we're not down there yet, so I won't bother with it. It's alright. Subclips, cool. Can also edit the subclip. Oh yeah, I didn't need to make a new subclip for that. You can kind of set stuff where you want from here, and you know, have this be what you want. It's pretty neat. I dig. Then you can also right click and do mark in and mark an out point. But seriously, I and O. I mean, who would do that? You can mark a split in your audio or video. I'd normally just do that in the timeline, unless you're like super ambitious. You can go to in, which we'd already talked about, Shift I, and go to out, which is Shift O. Go to split. I'm not sure what the keyboard shortcuts are those there, because I never use them. You can also clear in, which I think is Shift, no. Yeah, it's Control Shift I to clear the in point, Control Shift O to clear the out point. And if you want to clear them both at once, it's Control Shift X. Oh, all these things I'm saying Control, it's Command on a Mac, so deal with it. You can also add a marker from here, and then you can go to next marker via this bad boy and previous marker. You can clear the current marker, or you can just clear all markers, which is pretty cool. Let's add another one. You can also edit the marker there. You can say hello Jim, and say this is and then you can also set it to be a chapter marker or web link marker and send you to stuff. It's really cool. Flash cue point. I am not a Flash guy, so don't worry about it. You can also set how long you want it to be. So you can say, oh, look at that. This part right here is where I say hi to my friend Jim. There's no one on this shoot named Jim, so deal with it. So then you go to next marker. You can also just, when you're directly over the marker, that's whenever you do the edit marker thing. It's neato. You can also do the encore and flash markers from here. We'd already talked about this a little bit. This and this we've already talked about. Display mode, I talked about. Magnification. So I wanted to see it really small if I was moving a bunch of stuff around for some reason in the viewer, which wouldn't make much sense. But if I just like it to be small, or if I want it to be, you know, pixel for pixel in there, then I could, you know, see it in there. H for the hand tool, and then you can move around. V for the selection tool. Just use fit. It's plenty fine for me. And then, you know, safe margins again. Cool. So I'm going to move down here. This is, you know, where your time is. You can control click on this, and you can change the way it displays it. So, you know, normal frames, seconds, minutes, hours. And then this is, I guess seconds plus frames. That's pretty neat. And then this is just frames, which I like a lot for motion graphic stuff. But I'll keep it this way for, you know, video stuff, because we're doing video stuff now. This is Premiere. You can also select your zoom level from here. You don't have to right click. That's pretty nice. This, you can drag your video only into your timeline, and that keeps your in and out points in there. So if you remove your in and out points with Control-Shift-X, and then you got, oh, look at all that video. That's a lot. And you can also just drag the audio if you want to. Handy dandy. Or you can just click on the video and drag down and get both. And it's super great. Whenever you're doing that, you just default, it performs an overlay edit, which I guess we can get into now, which basically just imagine you have a piece of paper and all right, let me just make this quick example for you. Okay, so you have these two pieces of paper right here, right? So this one is your clip already in the timeline. It's your timeline in general, right? So you have that, and then an overlay edit would be just putting it on top of it, and then it'll play this much, and then it'll get to this one, and then it would be this new clip. An insert edit actually, if you'd put, oops, did it wrong. Oh, no, I didn't. Oh, man, this is what I get. Okay. So an insert edit, you would say this is one clip. I would drag this up to there, and then this other tail part would come right back out and be on the other side. And it would have all of both clips, would just have this one smack dab in the middle, right where one to be. So that's kind of the difference. You can see that. So overlay edit, just boom, flaps right on top. And insert, you hold down Control, and one of you drag it down and inserts. And see, everything just goes to the side. And it's great. You can also do that with period for overlay, and that'll go to the tracks you have selected with these little things, these little dilly-dallies on there. You can insert with comma. All right. So then next you can select your display resolution, and then lots of stuff that we've already found: gang source and program monitor, how to view it, fields, playback, pause, resolution, loop. Literally all stuff that we've seen before. So lots of stuff you can get there. You can also get up in this bad boy or right clicking on the video. So many places to get the same stuff. This right here is super handy dandy. It tells you the amount of time in between your in and out points. So you'll see that change as I move the out over there. Oh, oh, look at that funny face. Now it's 15 seconds and 13 frames before it was 9 seconds and 4 frames. So that's pretty neat. Now down here, this corresponds to the time in your clip. So it's how you know, oh, my in points, you know, at the first whatever of the clip. And then it's also where you'd see, oh man, I totally forgot where it is now. It's also where you would, oop, wrong dilly-dally. Yeah, you can do that and say, oh cool, I know where I am now, which is handy dandy. Let's see, you can also just scroll and it'll move you through the video. That's pretty neat. You can shift scroll and it'll move it a little faster. You have neat little things. Then right down here, you can zoom in and zoom out by pinching it in and pulling it out. And then down here, these fun little buttons, you know, mark in point, mark out point. Talking about what's down here already won't do any good because there's this little plus button. And then we can see everything. Set in point, set out point, clear in point, clear out point, go to in point, go to out point, play in and out point, which is super great. That's just great keyboard shortcut to remember, Control Shift Space. And then you can preview what you've just marked. And then add marker, M, go to next marker, Shift M. My goodness, they have just made this exactly similar to Final Cut 7. That is, why did I bother learning all those new keyboard shortcuts in 5.5? Anyway, step back is 1 frame back, and step forward is 1 frame forward. Play spacebar. If you don't know that keyboard shortcut, do 10 push-ups right now. Play around is actually Shift K. I have it mapped to Control Shift P because I've recorded a macro on my keyboard and complicated stuff. You can set it to loop just like we had before. Insert, edit, overlay, edit. You can display safe margins. You can export a frame, or you can add a space. So you can put a space in between stuff. That's pretty neat. I'd say that's pretty safe to say. That is most of the stuff in the source monitor. You can close out what you're looking at. If you open up a bunch of different things, you know, you can go in between the different clips that you're looking at, and you can close all. But I'd say that was a pretty successful look into the viewer window. And, oh man, we spent a long time in the viewer. But that's how you just go through and you learn a program. You figure out everything that you can do in one little thing. And now, I mean, I call it the viewer. Source monitor. Talking about Final Cut again. But anyway, I mean, and it's just that simple. Like, there's not a whole lot to it. Oh, you can also double-click a clip in the timeline to open it up in the source monitor. Cool. But, I mean, I think that we're good to go. You can now take a clip from Explorer Finder into the project panel, put it in a bin, and put it in the viewer and mark your ins and outs. Get ready for the next one. And that stuff will start getting exciting there. So, I guess, yeah, have a fantastic day.